Well, Benicia is a small town of less than 30,000 people. The Benicia Herald has a circulation of less than 6,000, but those are the papers that are making it these days. Small papers without much debt. So people can find out high school basketball scores and what's on sale, what's getting ready to open. Things relevant to the community, and it's really neat to be a part of something that's so close to the people. Rhyme and Reason is my column in the Benicia Herald. In January, I started writing a column. It's commentary wrapped in simple poems, and as I became, this became a feature that was in the paper every day, and I discovered I had colleagues at the paper, other writers, and I've always been kind of a political junkie, and so I started reading the op-eds, and they had four guys that were particularly eloquent at stating the positions of both the right and the left, and they were diametrically opposed. And then one day, it hit me like a diamond bullet, like they said in Apocalypse Now in my brain, that it's a microcosm of America itself. You've got this little town, and you've got these four guys that are good writers. These guys are constantly trying to convince me, to be like them, in terms of, and believe what they believe in, because it's what they do. That convincing people to believe a certain way is what they do, and it's interesting. I feel pressure to respond, either agree or disagree with what they're saying, but I try to fastidiously stay away from that area. I realized early on that you have a responsibility. You're a journalist, and you have a responsibility to not take sides. All politics are local, they say. And so to take a small town and these particular people and show their political differences and the way that they relate to each other. I mean, there's some personalities here. And as we've been going through this, we've seen some strong personalities, and I think it would be fun, to show the underlying problems that make compromise impossible in American political process. It's broken. Maybe we can figure out how to fix it, but I doubt it.
How can we have a situation where a party can set themselves up before the inauguration of Obama and say, we are going to block everything? They did it. They said it. It's out there. It's on record.
The best way to improve the economy, Jeff, is to expand our educational opportunities.
What's the best way to improve the economy?
Today, lower taxes.
My name is Jeff Burkhart. I write a daily feature for the Benicia Herald called Rhyme and Reason. I'd like to ask you a few questions about some of the issues that will frame the debate in the upcoming 2012 presidential election.
I believe that there is man-made global warming. The majority of scientists, I think the figure is upwards of 80%, agree that there's man-made global warming.
Well, I have a very strong feeling about global warming, and I think that the whole thing has been basically blown completely out of proportion. I think there's very little proof of some of these wild and crazy tales about the sky falling.
How do you view our national security and the global reach of our military?
Well, obviously our global presence has been extensive. We probably should reduce our global span, but at the same time improve the military to be capable of responding when necessary. But obviously having the long reach that we have right now is very expensive and is probably in some areas not as required as it was even 25 or 30 years ago.
One of the right-wing points is to increase military expenditure. Well, Jesus, the military themselves aren't even asking for it.
I think our military right now is in terrible shape. We've been cut back to the point right now where we're probably in the end of the Korean War level.
I think that our security issues and the threats have been greatly expanded because there's a lot of money that's made by the military industrial complex.
Jerry, how will we lower our national debt?
Well, I would say the very first thing was the situation that the government came out and decided that they were going to give the money, all the money that they could find to support things that they should not have been involved with in the beginning. Our bailouts were ridiculous, and it's put this entire country into debt for the next 2 to 3 generations.
I think we can lower the national debt by reducing military spending to a great degree. I'm not saying abolishing the military, but I think we could probably reduce it by 2/3.
I think we need government stimulus more than we have had. I think we can increase the tax rates on the highest incomes.
How do you feel about the healthcare system in America?
Well, I think Obamacare was an overreaction to a perceived crisis that was blown out of proportion.
I think medicine right now should be back to where it was. It should be handled privately by doctors and hospitals, and the government should stay out of it.
It's tragedy that Obama didn't go hang in there with the public option. He's a compromiser. He's being treated as some kind of a socialist outlier. He's a compromiser, and he keeps compromising and compromising. And what he ended up doing was compromising some of the heart out of the initial plan.
I think that deals were made. I think people have been granted waivers. Many unions and other supporters of the president have been granted waivers from the health care. I think the mandate is also illegal. I think the biggest problems we had could have been resolved with a much more logical and more narrowly focused legislation.
Fox is guilty as hell of a constant drum of misinformation.
Let's think about Israel, Iran, Syria, and the phenomena that's come to be known as the Arab Spring.
Well, we have created a story, a myth, about terrorism, and there are people who are terrorists, but a lot of it is blowback because of the way that we mistreat people, with our hubris in a lot of foreign nations. We think that we're superior because we're Americans, and we're just human beings like everybody else in the world.
We're in a world we do not understand. The Middle East is a drain we cannot fathom, we have not fathomed yet. Maybe no one can. Every civilian, innocent civilian killed in Afghanistan becomes somebody else's cause.
I think the problems in the Mideast are going to be extremely difficult to resolve. Nobody has resolved them in hundreds of years. As far as the Arab Spring goes, I don't think the Arab Spring is anything close to being the optimistic achievement that we once thought it was. I think in the future we're going to see that as being a major problem. What's happening right now in Egypt and Syria is pretty scary and is a direct result of allowing this Arab Spring to generate without clear intelligence, knowing what was going to be occurring and who was behind it.
I think it was Winston Churchill that said, when you're young, if you're not liberal, you have no heart. And when you're old, if you're not conservative, you have no brain.
Where does the research come from? For a million things that you could talk about in this country, where did that research come from? When they keep talking about private enterprise. Pharmaceuticals, the internet, all of the spin-offs from the space program. Where do these things? They come from public agency, public research, the Public Health Service, and all of their research. And we're going to do away with it. We're going to depend upon somebody who's got a third of his fortune over in the Cayman Islands, for Christ's sake, and who's only looking, for 5 years out here. Now he's going to retire with his 10 billion. We're going to look to him for the future. No. The government is us.